Tired of creating 10 variables to hold 10 values? Java arrays got you back. So what do I mean by creating 10 variables to hold 10 values? Say you are declaring you have a data set of a particular amount of say 10 students with their age data set. So for us to store those data sets, do we start saying, okay, age of um Ife equals to 30 years, age of Carol equals 50 years, age of Balogun equals 60 years? Do we start creating integers or creating data set for each person? No. So what could we do to store the ages of each person and each person's name and be able to assign those names to ages later in just 2 lines of code? We could use what is called arrays. So in today's episode, we're finally learning how to store multiple values in one go using arrays in Java. Whether it's calls, names, or items, arrays make it clean and easy. Let's break it down. The first question is, what is an array? Okay, so what is an array? So an array is like a box that holds multiple values of the same type. So an array is like a box that holds multiple value of the same type. So look at the truck on your right hand side of the screen. So the array is like the truck that you load goods into and it holds them. So you can access each item with an index, just like list 0 or list 1, etc. Now there's something you need to know about the array. Array starts with your 0 to 1. An array doesn't start with 1, it starts with 0. I'm going to tell you what I mean by that, right? So the array syntax. So like Java has its own syntax and the for loop has its own syntax for you not to miss the I++ or the condition that helps to check the initial condition. Yeah, arrays also have their own syntax. Now, what is an array syntax? Well, the array syntax is like the example you could see there. So initially, to write an array in Java, you have to give the array to the data type, okay? So this is how you give an array using two brackets and two square brackets. And as you can see, the square bracket is given to the name of the um data type. So there it's an integer. So when you type in int, the numbers, then we give it equal to and the array in square curly braces. Okay, so this is how you write array in Java. In Python, there is an easier way of writing arrays in Python, and in JavaScript there is also another very easy way of writing array in JavaScript. So each programming language has its own syntax, and please do not mix them for the other. Okay, so the first bullet point there says the int with the square brackets means array of integers. Like I said before, if it were to be float, we'll still have the square bracket and will be array of floating point digits. Then the curly braces there initializes the array. So whatever is in the curly braces is what gets initialized into the array in numbers. Now next is for us to pick the first items. So this is where this is what I was talking about. The array start with 0 and not 1. So if you have done IFT in Q in the Q pattern of storing arrays, you notice that the first array is stored at point 0. So in the next array is stored at point 1. The first out principle or first in last out principle, sorry, states that the first in value is stored at point 0, followed by the next and the next and the next and the next. Now the one that maybe at point 5 becomes the first variable to you. So if you want to eject the array, the first point becomes point 0, which is now your last point that goes out. So do not confuse you, just know that the initial value of the first digit in your array is always equal to 0. So let's keep moving. So there is also a fixed rule. The fixed rule is that Java arrays have fixed length. So you can't grow, sorry, or shrink them after their creation. So if you create a Java array, it's always like that. You can't grow or shrink. In JavaScript, you can don't worry, with time you get to know. Let me not confuse you people. So with Java arrays, they have fixed length, so you can't grow and you can't shrink. We'll discuss what that means. So let's go through one, looping through arrays. So using this code, for int I equals to 0, I'm hoping you understand this by now. I is equal to 0. We're initializing I to be equal to 0. Then I is less than numbers dot length. So what does that mean? Where this now shows there's an array somewhere, and we're checking this code to run for the number of items in the array. That's why we're saying numbers dot length. Then in that process, I plus plus. So if there are 10 items in the array of numbers, when it gets up to less than 10, because we're not having less than or equal to, so when I is less than 10, which is 9, the code stops. Okay. So let me show you what I mean in IntelliJ IDE. So please head over to your IDE now. Okay, so let's create a new file in our source, and let's say this is for arrays. Okay, okay, so let's go. Let's take the public. Thought I would get some. Yeah, fine. Public static void, whatever. So just know you have to have that in the back of your head. That's always constant. So next up, we're taking that initial code. So for us to have the loop of numbers, let's say, so we're storing a particular number 1 to 10. Now we said we declare it. If it's an integer data type int, then the array, the square bracket follows immediately to signify that it is an array. Now we're calling it numbers, array of numbers. Okay, thank you for suggesting. So this is how it goes. So when you declare the array, then you make it in a color braces, and this indicates that all this belongs to something like this. Okay, so it's the same as saying something like this in JavaScript or in Python. Sorry, let's go with JavaScript first of all. Saying array equals to 1, 2, 3, blah 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 blah, and you close the brackets. Okay, so it's the same saying something like this, or in Python we actually call them dictionaries. Okay, though we using the dictionaries and arrays, you can be able to work with dictionaries. You can be able to figure out so your arrays from there. Okay, so the dictionaries actually gives us the keys and the value. So no, let's not confuse you guys. So it's the same thing, and it's just the syntax that actually is different. Okay, so okay, so we've declared the array. So now let's go for. Okay, thanks for suggesting again. So now you can see that this is a permanent value. It's a permanent value. So since I is less than numbers, I cannot say I is less than numbers since number is an array. Okay, so in an array, you could check for the length of the array. Now let's see, the length of this array is 10 because we're having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the length of this array is 10. So when you add the dot length, helps this code is the same thing as saying I is less than 10 right here. But now this is dynamic because if I should increase this array to 20, I will now be less than 20. Okay, I don't know if you're getting this. So after this, you now say your system dot whatever to print the numbers. Now let's see what it says. Okay, so now you can see it in my console. We're having numbers 1 through 10. Okay, so this is the way you look through arrays. Let's go back to the slide. Okay, so we've seen how we could look through arrays using our numbers.length method. Next is a bonus challenge for you. I want you to be able to use array to store and print grades. Okay, so use the array to store the grades and also use the array to print the grades. So if this is a bit difficult for you, you could use ChatGPT, or if you can't, just wait for the solution. So please pause the video now. Okay, so if you were not able to build that on your own, do well to listen for the solution. So the solution to that example is a bit complex, but it's just for you to try how to get, you know, how to debug things on your own. So sorry, how to think about a project on your own. So now we are saying a we're going to create an array that stores in grades and prints the grades out. Okay, so that means first of all we need an array to store in grades. So now this is the array. Now we're storing in the following grades: 85, 90. We could also ask the user for input, but let's keep it simple for now: 70 and 88. Okay, so now we've gotten our arrays right now. So next is we want to loop through the arrays and we want to be able to do something. Now I'm not going to collect the suggested code because I have something else in mind. Now this arrays, we're going to take G. Now notice, then we take G, then we take grades. Now what does this mean? So this G with this grades is just a concise way to iterate through each element in the grades array in Java. So what do I mean? So iterate is spelled this way, so you know what I'm saying. Okay, so if we're iterating between uh that is, if we're looping, is the same thing as saying if we're looping or we're going in circles. So we could, for arrays we say iterate, so that's part of the syntax, or iterate. Okay, so we're going through each element in the grade array in Java. So it's part of what's called an enhanced loop for each loop. Okay, so either you call it an enhanced loop or you call it for each loop. So this part, whenever you write, you see a code that is written G, then this, then the grades, then you know it's a for each loop because we're going to use the value of G. Okay, so the for here is um it signals us the beginning of the loop. Okay, this for here signals the beginning of the loop. Then the int followed by G followed by these grades is the core of the enhanced loop, or the for each loop. Okay, so in JavaScript, for each loop is part of the loops, while in Java it is not strictly part of the loops. So we have the for loop, the for each loop, and okay, the while loop and the do, not the for each loop. But in JavaScript we have the for loop, the for each loop, the while loop, and the do while loop. Okay, but in Java we just have three. But you can also add the for each loop by using this pattern. So the int G, it declares a new variable named G. So this declares a new, it's the same way as writing int I. Okay, so without assigning a value to it. Now in each iteration of the loop, this variable will hold the value of the current element being possessed from the grades array. So this now will hold any element possessed from the grades array. Okay, now this over here, this colon, acts as a separator between the variable declaration and the collection between being iterated over. So again, this colon over here acts as a separation between the variable declaration G and the collection being iterated over, which is this collection. So this is the variable, and we have to put a colon instead of something like this. It will bring error. So we use a colon to separate between, okay, this is the G, this is the value of what we want coming from this, which is this array, this number. So this numbers is going to be assigned to this G. Okay, I don't know if it's making sense. Okay, I hope it's making sense to you. If it's not, please use the comment section and I will explain more of that. So while the grades is in the name of the array, for which we're iterating through or we're looping through, okay, which is this. So in essence, the loop reads as for each integer g in the grade array, do the following. So let me add a comment at the top. For each integer of g in the grades array, then do the following. Okay, so this is what the loop says. For each integer g in the grades array, do the following. So in each iteration, the next element from the grades array is automatically assigned to the variable g. So when I iterate to 85, g here becomes 85. If I iterate to 90, g becomes 90. If I iterate to 70, and if I iterate to 88, g becomes whatever value the loop is in currently. So the code inside inside the loop curly braces is executed using the current value of g. Okay, so now that is the brief explanation I just wanted to give about this. So this is what we call a for each loop. So instead of writing something like this above, you can just go with this shortcut right here, which is very simple. So if I wanted to write this before, I would just say for g equal to 0. Now we'll say g is less than, and then numbers dot length, so it's not really feasible, but this is more quicker and it gives you the more accurate results. So we now say grades, which is this, plus g. Okay, so we'll bring this to the console. We get okay, so we get grades of 85 when g is the first, grades of 90 when g is the second, grades of 70 when this g is the third, grades of 88 when g is the last current array in grades. Okay, so this is plain and simple. So congratulations if you were able to pass the coding challenge on your own, or you were able to use like an AI to help you through. And boom, you've been able to understand arrays, and that's wonderful. You've just unlocked one of Java's most used tools. So if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and drop a favorite number below and note I'm watching. So next up, we'll create arrays manually and take input from users. Okay, so please do well to leave a good like to this video, and also remember we're aiming for 1,000 subscribers, and just you alone clicking the subscription button now counts. Okay, so please do well to click on the subscription button, and note these videos are being dropped here for free, and so the only perk or the only thing attached is just for us to keep growing the channel by subscribers. So see you in the next one. Peace.